Today I'm reviewing Spider-Man Brand New Day. I saw it opening weekend, so I've only got one watch in. Kind of just been resting in it, kind of taking into account how I feel about it. Spoiler warning, we are going to be diving into the movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, save this video, come back later. I definitely want to start with the positives. The first thing that comes to mind is the fight scenes. I think pretty much every fight scene in this movie was top tier. They were really well done. They were very well choreographed. I know they did a lot of practical effects on set, and Tom Holland had to go through like a whole lot of punishment and stuff, and I really respect him for that. I think that was a very cool thing to do. Anyone who saw the trailer saw that they did the 5 year time skip montage at the beginning, where he fights like a variety of villains, and they recreate all these comic book covers and stuff. It was really cool. If you don't know, they did not use CGI for Tom Holland to do those poses. Those were all done with like wire harnesses and stuff. We got to see a little bit more of the brutal side of Spider-Man when he fought the Scorpion. He ripped his tail off and did one of those finisher moves from the Insomniac games. It was really cool. I don't think we really saw anything like that since he fought Green Goblin, and before that, there really wasn't a whole lot of that with Tom Holland Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Punisher teaming up to take on the Hulk. I thought it was funny as well as action-packed, and it also stayed true to the spirit of every one of the characters in the comic books. Seeing Punisher try to take down the Hulk with conventional weaponry was pretty funny. A lot of people were bashing it online, like, "Oh, what was he thinking? There's no way he thought that would work." Blah blah blah. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that that's what Punisher does. He does that stuff all the time. I found it very reminiscent of the late 90s Marvel Knights run, where Punisher takes on Ulik, King of Trolls, with nothing but conventional weaponry, like P90, hunting knife, grenades, and while none of these weapons do any damage to Ulik, Punisher not only survives, but also buys time for the Marvel Knights team to come up with a plan. I thought that the final fight with the hand was pretty decent. Um, Honestly, if I watched it again, I would probably think more highly of it. But I do think there was a lot of really cool things that happened in it. Um, However, I do kind of feel that the hand was out of place in this movie. What I thought would have been a cooler idea was if Jean had manipulated all the villains from the beginning of the movie to fight Spider-Man to prevent him from getting to her through like the reinforced door. So in the beginning, you have him do this montage of defeating all these enemies one at a time. I think it would have been a cool thing to have him fight all of them at once at the end of the movie, and then him having to give in to the arachnid DNA and to have the strength to defeat them all. Plus, it would have given all of those villains a lot more screen time, which they definitely needed. The Webnado finisher in that fight scene, though, was sick as hell, and I about lost it when he kicked that door down. That was insane. Another high point in this movie for me was the web swinging, particularly during the chase scenes. You had the chase scene with the tank, in which he was doing a lot of really cool web swinging that you hadn't really seen a lot of from Tom Holland before. And then you had the chase scene where he's racing Jean to save MJ. And I thought that was really creative because not only did it showcase him being acrobatic and being able to improvise, it also showcased his intelligence in stopping Jean in progress, like while trying to save MJ, if that makes sense. Um, and we've had a lot of really cool web swinging sequences from all three Spider-Men over the years, but I think that this movie really showed how quickly he's able to traverse New York City whenever there's an emergency. Like we've always kind of known that, we've all kind of accepted that, but this movie really showed it. Like when something happened and he had to swing across the city, he just starts booking it, and the way that they show it, I think is really cool in a way that we hadn't seen before. Also, Mark Ruffalo and Jon Bernthal reprising their roles as Hulk and Punisher were obviously in the movie. If you saw the trailers, you know that they were in the movie. And I think a lot of people were kind of skeptical about what we were going to get because with Hulk, we've been getting different versions of Hulk, mainly Professor Hulk, or kind of lamer versions of him. And people were concerned about Punisher being PG-13 versus rated R. And I gotta say, I think both of them nailed it. I think both of the actors did an amazing job. Seeing Bruce Banner go full Savage Hulk for the first time in years was something that is definitely worth the price of the movie ticket. Uh, that scene was extraordinary, and Ruffalo's acting when you see him like losing control and just yelling for everybody like get out of the building, like he's really just trying to hold on to that and he can't. And while Jon Bernthal wasn't doing his full R-rated performance, I felt like he did a very good job as well. Like, he wasn't like cussing as much, but he was still kind of, and he wasn't like stabbing people in the neck with brooms and stuff like that. But you still felt like this was Frank Castle. It didn't feel like a knockoff PG-13 version of Frank Castle. It was just Frank Castle in this PG-13 world. And speaking of acting, Tom Holland and Zendaya both did such a good job that I don't even really know how to elaborate it. They were just on it the entire time. Both of them showed up ready to work, knowing the roles they were there for, and executing it fully. And they definitely earned every dollar they made on this one. It was really good. I think the writing of this movie was really good. It had the points in which it was high, that it was very high, and it did have a couple of low points, which I will get to. But at its peak, it was very good. The whole VMAX storyline, um, the way that the movie kind of leads you toward wondering what VMAX is, and then as they're asking the director of damage control, like what is VMAX, where is VMAX, he's constantly like, I don't know what that is, I don't know what you're talking about, and at no point in the movie did I believe him at all. It was just consistently like, this guy's lying. He knows what VMAX is, and he's covering it up. It's going to be some kind of super weapon, or it's going to be some kind of mutant, or something like that. And then you find out what VMAX is at the exact same time that Jean Grey finds out what it is. And you see that it's the vent that her sister Sarah was looking at as she died. And even in that last moment, I don't know about everyone else, but I kind of thought like, oh, that vent, like that's the method of escape that Sarah used. And then it dawned on me, oh, she didn't escape. She died. This is where she died. That was the last thing she saw. And they really hammered it home that you had that realization at the same time that Jean did. And to also make that the catalyst that brings on her mutant powers, as well as having a visual representation of those powers manifesting with the computer screens from the guys that were monitoring her brain or whatever from damage control, just all tied together. That was awesome cinematography, awesome writing, just great job all around. And I know I've been kind of ranting and raving a little bit, but it wouldn't be an honest review if I didn't talk about the downside and the negatives of this movie. The absolute lowest point of the movie for me was after the Hulk and Punisher Spider-Man fight, when at the very end of it, Hulk is just beating down Spider-Man. He's smashing, he's throwing punches, he's just landing on him. And Spider-Man goes, Bruce, it's me, Peter. And then Hulk has like this moment of recognition. He's like, oh, it's my old friend Peter. And he like stops hitting him, and he stops fighting him, and he gives up. And that's how the fight ends. But the problem with that is that these characters don't know each other at all. When was the last time we saw Savage Hulk? Age of Ultron. At the end of Age of Ultron, Hulk steals a Quinjet and he leaves Earth in it. He goes stealth mode and he leaves. Next time we see him, he's in Thor Ragnarok when he's the gladiator. And then the next time we see him after that is in the opening scene of Infinity War when he loses his fight to Thanos. Well, for most of those sequences, especially Age of Ultron, Spider-Man was not even in the picture yet in the MCU. And in Infinity War, when Banner, not Hulk, but Banner, comes back to Earth and he finds out about Spider-Man and Ant-Man, he makes the comment, he goes, oh, there's a Spider-Man and an Ant-Man, showing that like this is his first time hearing about these characters. And you could make the argument that they're both in New York at the beginning of Infinity War when the Black Order first shows up, but they don't interact with each other at all. There's no connection there. There's no relationship there. I don't even think they meet because Banner's not in the fight. He's just standing there. He can't Hulk out because he just lost his fight to Thanos. And Spider-Man shows up late in the fight because he saw what was going on while he was on the bus going to his field trip to the Museum of Modern Art. And then, almost immediately after the fight, Spider-Man and Iron Man get on the spaceship and they go to Planet Titan because they're like, "Well, I said we take the fight to him." While Banner goes to Wakanda with the Captain America side of things, and at no other point do they see each other because Spider-Man dies on Planet Titan. And you don't see him again until the portal scene at the end of Endgame. And at best, you have these two are both technically on the same battlefield. They don't do any combo moves together. They don't assist each other or help each other in really any way. Like there's zero interaction between these two characters. For all intents and purposes, these two characters have never met. A lot of people online are saying, "Oh, he recognized Peter because the spell didn't work on Hulk because it only worked on Banner." Well, you don't even need a spell because they don't know each other. So what are you talking about? Not to just ramble and beat a dead horse, but there's not a single piece of dialogue exchanged between the two characters. There's zero interaction. There's zero relationship to build off of. There's nothing. And then at the beginning of Brand New Day, as we said, there's do like a 5-year time skip. This would have been the perfect opportunity to add in some type of relationship there. They could have been like, "Oh, Peter started working with Dr. Banner on blah 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 for whatever reason. I don't know. Just you could have come up with something." But not only did they not do that, they very specifically show that there was no interaction in that 5-year time skip either. Because once Peter's spider DNA starts taking him over, he goes to the university and finds Dr. Banner, meets him, lies about his name. So even if you're counting that interaction, he lies about his name. He says his name is Ned Leeds. So Banner doesn't even know that that's Peter. He doesn't know it's Spider-Man at all. And then Hulk comes out later. And then when Savage Hulk comes out, this is the first time he's been in existence outside of Banner's brain since the opening scene of Infinity War. And you're going to tell me that he has like this recognition of Spider-Man that's going to stop him from smashing. It just doesn't make any sense. And also, he says, "Bruce, it's me, Peter." Hulk hates being called Bruce. "No Banner, only Hulk." He literally says that once he transforms. He hates being compared to Banner. Hulk does not like Banner. He does not like being referred to as Banner in any way, shape, or form. This is a gaping plot hole in this movie, if I'm being completely honest. It's the ultimate low point. I'm not going to say it ruins the movie for me, but it definitely docks it a couple of points for me because and ultimately it's because in the comic books they do have this relationship. This is how they resolve this in the comic books. They say that, "Oh, the spell didn't work on Hulk. It only worked on Banner because Hulk was in Banner's brain at the time. So when he comes out, he's not affected." And that's fine in the comic books because they're friends. You have multiple examples of Spider-Man and Hulk interacting with each other, helping each other out. They are friends. So when Hulk comes out, he goes, "Oh, hey, Peter." Peter's surprised, but it's very easily understood because they are friends. Whereas that's not the case in the MCU. So the MCU is cashing in on this like big emotional moment from the comic books that they put zero work into building up to. You didn't establish these relationships. You didn't establish these characters as knowing each other. So you don't get to just cash in on these big emotional moments between them. I mean, you can. It's your shit. It's your movie or whatever. But I mean, I don't buy it. I think it's crap. I really do. Another major plot line in this movie is that Spider-Man's arachnid DNA is becoming more aggressive and it's suppressing his human DNA. And all in all, I think it's handled pretty well. I did like the way that he developed the inhibitor chip. It was obviously inspired by the Dr. Octopus inhibitor chip from the Tobey movies. I thought that was really cool. And the way that it really seems like they're going to use that as like the mutant cure for the upcoming X-Men movies. I think that's very interesting. I think that there's going to be a lot of really cool dynamics between Peter Parker and different mutants once they come onto the scene, there's going to be some mutants that understand that he was, had good intentions, and I'm sure that he's going to be trying to rectify this in some way. And then I think you're going to have other mutants, probably your Magneto types, that are going to resent Spider-Man for it. They're going to be very hostile toward him. But the reason I bring it up now is because at the end of the movie, they don't resolve this issue in any way. Throughout the movie, a big conflict is that his spider DNA is taking over his human DNA, and he has to develop this inhibitor chip to keep it in check. Well, he modifies the inhibitor chip to try to stop Hulk and Jean Grey, and eventually he succeeds, but then he removes it from himself to take on the Hand, so that because he's not strong enough without it to take them on. So, what now? Like, does he not need it anymore? Does he go home and make a new one after the movie's over? Like, he just has this moment where Jean's like, are you Spider-Man or are you Peter? He's like, I'm both. And, you have the whole thing with the sword, and, like, it's a cool moment and everything, but, like, they don't make any attempt to resolve that conflict with him at all. Like, is this still going to be a thing in the next movie? Are we eventually going to maybe get Man Spider after all? I really don't think so. I'd hate to say it, but I think that we're in the next movie. It's just not going to be mentioned. And the last thing I'll touch on is the point that obviously Jean Grey is the antagonist of this movie. And if you watch any of my channels, you know that I was very adamant about the fact that I did not think Jean Grey was going to be in this movie, and I was very wrong. I thought that the villain was going to be Mindworm, and I know that's hilarious now because obviously it is Jean Grey, and most of you watching this don't know who Mindworm is. But I have a video on who Mindworm is and why I thought that leading up to it, and I thought I made a pretty good case. But I was wrong. And even as we were approaching the release date of the movie, I kept thinking, like, there's got to be some kind of twist, because why would it be Jean Grey? It didn't make any sense to me. And also, it didn't make any sense to me why Peter and Frank would be able to resist Jean Grey's power. She should be dog walking these dudes. She's way more powerful than them. And they did a good job of explaining, like, why that was the case here. This was like a Jean Grey origin, so she wasn't at her full power until the third act of the movie. So that's cool. I get that. No big deal. My concern with Jean Grey now is I feel that they made her a bit too evil. Like, and I know a lot of people online, this is a lot of discussion around this right now. They're saying, like, oh, well, you're not going to be able to handle the X-Men if you think that was bad. Or, oh, why can this character kill people and this person can't? Like, you got Daredevil and Punisher and Winter Soldier and all these people, and they all get redemption arcs. And, like, yeah, you're right. They do. And Jean Grey deserves that redemption arc. But my concern is she going to get it? Like, once we get the X-Men movie, I guess what I'm asking is Marvel going to put the work in to do the character development necessary to walk this chick back from how far she took it? Because say what you will about Punisher, he's not out here slaughtering innocent people. Jean Grey killed people in this movie. She threw an old man out into traffic, and he got obliterated by a cab. She took over Mary Jane's mind and intentionally made Peter think that MJ remembered him, and, like, very much toyed with his heart in a way that was extremely malicious and did not help her accomplish her goals at all. She did it purely for the sadism. And she was in his mind. She knows who he is. That's how she was able to get the MJ information in the first place. So she knows that all she had to do was tell Peter what was going on with her sister, and he would have helped her. Because with great power, there must also come great responsibility. She knows this. And I mean, she didn't fully understand the point of that until the end of the movie when she received the speech from Aunt May herself. But she still knew that Spider-Man was a hero. She knew what he was about. But she wasn't about that. She was about revenge and taking her anger out on the world because of what had happened to her sister. And understandably, what happened to her and her sister, being disowned by their mother, her sister being kidnapped, tortured, murdered by the Department of Damage Control, all terrible things, all things that justify violence, sure, that justify hatred, if you will, you know, but they don't justify just killing innocent people that don't have anything to do with the situation at all. If anything, you're delaying the rescue of your sister by doing these horrible things. So, once again, I gotta ask: is Marvel going to do the work? Or are you going to do the work necessary to build the character development that makes this person a hero on a superhero team that is going to quote fight for a world that hates and fears them? Because the Jean Grey we had in Brand New Day doesn't seem like she wants to do that. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on the matter. Those are my thoughts, opinions on Spider-Man: Brand New Day. I liked it. It was a good movie, a great movie, but it did have flaws. Um, I'm not sure where I would rank it. Once it gets on Disney Plus, I'm gonna go through and do a re-ranking of all the Spider-Man movies and see where they all fall, because the whole Hulk plot hole has got me thinking about some of the other flaws in the other Spider-Man movies, and I want to really examine them and see where I rank them truly. So stay tuned for that, and as always, press start.